Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to make this corset bracelet, which actually is reversible. So make sure you stay tuned and watch, featuring some round duos and crystals and pearls. If you do need any supplies, go ahead and look below the video in the description. You'll get all the supply links there for our website. Gather up your materials on your bead on it board and let's get ready to get started. So to start our corset bracelet, we are beginning with 2 needles. We're going to pull that corset tight as we go through and kind of cinch it together, creating that line of pearls down the middle. I have here some round duos, some 3mm Potomac pearls, 11 seed beads, and 3mm Potomac crystals. I have 2 needles on my 0.06 white dragon thread. And the first thing I'm going to do is pick up 1 11 followed by 1 crystal and 1 11. And I'm using about 5 feet of thread, and I'm going to put my cup button on first, taking 1 needle through one side, 1 needle through the other side. You can use an infinite clasp, you can use a lobster clasp, completely up to you what you want to use for this. Out of here, we're going to do our first little kind of crisscross. We're going to be crisscrossing a lot to do this design. I want you to put on 4 of your 11 seed beads on both the right and the left needle. If you do not pick up seed beads well with the left needle, this is great practice. You can see we get to put our clasp or our closure on right away, which is one of the really great things about working with 2 needles. From here, I want you to put 1, 2 11 on your threaded needle, plus 1 of your 2mm pearls, and then followed by 1 and 2 11 seed beads. With your needle that's going then on the left-hand side, you're going to crisscross through all of those same beads. So 1 needle went through from the right side to the left side. The other needle is going from the left to the right. When I cross through here, I want to make sure as I pull my threads that I still have the same amount of thread on the right side of my needle, or the right side of my project, as I do on the left side of the project as well. From here, we're going to get right into the project, working first with our round duos and our pearls, and then we'll come back and add in our crystals. If you want to, and you would rather have crystals down the middle and pearls kind of poking out, you can totally do that too and just switch them. Very simple design element switch. From here, I'm going to pick up 1 round duo with my left needle and 1 round duo with my right needle, followed by 3 of my 11 seed beads on both the left and the right. I'm going to let those both drop down next to my project here. And then the needle that's coming out the right-hand side with a round duo is going to go from the first hole of the round duo, they're a 5mm 2-hole round bead, through the second hole and towards the center. Same thing on the opposite side here, coming out 1 hole, going into the other. And what that's going to do is bring our needles toward the center of our project. We're going to give a nice tight pull so we don't see any extra thread. And don't worry, we'll come back and we will reinforce the thread at the end. We'll have an opportunity to do that. And now what we're going to do is get our first crisscross of our pearls. So coming out here, we're going to add 1, 2 11 on either the right or left needle, whatever you're on, and your pearl, and then 1, 2 11. With the other needle here, I want you to pick up 1, 2 11, crisscross through that pearl. So my thread and needle is going from the left side to the right side originally. Now I'm going from the right towards the left, crisscrossing through that pearl. Add 2 more 11 seed beads after that. And that is your pattern. See how we get those pearls crisscrossed in the center? After this, we're going in, and the needle that's on the right grabs the next round duo, the next 3 seed beads, and then sews from the first hole to the second hole of the round duo bead, pulling that in. Put that down, and once again, pick up the other side. Round duo goes on. 1, 2, 3 there of my galvanized burnt cinnamon. Great name for this time of year. And then back through that round duo. So I'm going to flip this now so you can see it the opposite direction in case you want to build away from you. So I was building towards me, now I'm going to build away from me. So I still have the right hand needle in my hand. 1, 2 11 go on, followed by a pearl. On the right side, or the left side rather, here I'm splitting it up a little bit just so you get the context. 2 11s, let that pearl Slide all the way down. The pearl that's on the right needle now, the left needle goes through the opposite direction. Gives that nice little tight pull then after we get that through there. And once we have those threads coming through, you can see that crisscross happens. So the crisscross goes right there. We are going to grab 2 more 11-0 seed beads and then our round duo bead. 3 more seed beads, 1, 2, 3, back through the round duo in the opposite direction. Continue on adding the whole way towards the length of your bracelet. Now you want to keep in mind as you're doing this, we are going to pull it tight, but you're going to make it about the size of your wrist before we add our loop. Once you have your bracelet long enough, we're going to make the loop at the end to go into our button. And I want to point out that when you're doing this and you have this opportunity, this is also just a really pretty bracelet on its own. So you could stop here too if you just want that crisscross look. And also, just to change it up and to realize that you can use a lot of different 2-hole beads for this style. So I have my last set here, and instead of the pearl, I've switched out for a crystal. And on one of my strands, I've put 28 of my 11-0 seed beads. I'm going to string back through that crystal that we crisscross through. And I'm going to go one more time through all of those beads. If you want to, you can certainly do a peyote stitch here and make it look a little bit more of a full toggle. If you're using a regular clasp, wire guard would go on here. And here's where you're going to put that on. Then the last thing we're going to do is we are going to reinforce one more time with the opposite thread. So now that I've gone through twice with this thread, I'm going to take the other thread here that's hanging out, just waiting to be used, tighten that up, go through that loop one more time, and then we're going to come down through the design. Now through the design, you may look at it and say, hey, look at all those open seed beads at the top. It's really easy. I should be able to add whatever I want to down the sides. You certainly can. However, we're going to do that crisscross kind of corset look. So it's going to be a little bit different from just going right down the sides. But if you want to, you can certainly go right down the side, picking up those seed beads and kind of add beads in. We're going to make ours a little bit more detailed than that. So coming out through that 2mm bead, or that 3mm crystal bead, we have one thread coming out through the right, one coming out through the left. We're going to tighten up, make sure we don't see any extra thread through there. And now what we're going to do is come down through the sides. So to come down through the side, the needle that's on the right here is going to go back through the round duo, the 2 beads prior to that, over through my 3 seed beads, and that's where I'm going to hang out. I'm going to get the left needle in that same position, and we'll get ready to crisscross through the middle and do more of our corset pulling. So I did the first 2 so you could see kind of what it looks like, but we're coming out of the seed beads just like normal. And what we're going to do is add 1, 2, and 3 seed beads, pick up one of our bicones. My needle that's on the right is going to go through the pearl and over toward the left-hand side. Just let it hang out there for a second. Needle on the left, then we are going to do the exact same thing with. And just twist it around. So needle on the left here, we're going to do 1, 2, 3 seed beads, our 3mm crystal, sew through the pearl, and I also want you to sew through the crystal and the 11-0 seed bead right after it. See how that kind of loops around? Now your previous needle, you need to sew through the crystal that we just added and through the 11-0 seed bead after it. So you're crisscrossing through the pearl, the crystal, and 1 seed bead after. See how that lays just kind of right on top there on the side? You can also do 2 seed beads rather than 3. That's up to you. Coming out that 11-0 then, 1, 2 more seed beads, and then you're going to sew down through the side that your needle is currently on. So I'm sewing down the right side here. All 3 of those seed beads along the side of the round duo. Once again, 1, 2, 3 seed beads, 1 4mm, through the pearl. Now what I do, so my threads don't get really, really tangled, is I literally just flip my project every time I'm doing it. I'm coming out here on the other side through the seed bead. 2 more seed beads get added up through those 3 seed beads along the side. See how simple that is? Coming out here then, 1, 2, 3 more seed beads, 1 crystal through your pearl, through the crystal that's already there from the other side, and through the 11-0 seed bead and out. Once you're there, you're going to pick up back the needle that's coming out of the pearl and make both sides match, going through the crystal and the 11-0 seed bead. Once you're out the crystal and the 11-0 seed bead, to make the sides match, 2 more 11s on both the right and the left side, and then down through the 3 seed beads that sit right above the round duo. 2 is put on that side, flip it over, 2 more seed beads put here. If you want it a little bit tighter, you can do 1 instead of 2 there. You're coming down through those 3 seed beads. So you can see why it's called the corset, because we're doing a lot of crisscrossing along the design, kind of pulling tight to get those crystals sitting right next to that pearl. We're going to continue decorating the sides and adding in our seed beads and getting that looped look around the corset bracelet. Once you get to the end of the bracelet, and just to show kind of that reversible design, that here the pearls really stick out, and then if you flip it over, you have that nice crystal kind of loop section almost. It's almost like a reversible bracelet. But when you're at the end here and your thread is coming out near the end, I have one here that got really short. I'm just going to keep it there. And with this other one coming out after those seed beads, you can either wrap around and set seed beads around. What I'm going to do is I am going to go through my RounDuo bead. Then I am going to come up through my clasp, because remember we did 3 times around the loop. We want to do a couple times around the button as well, because whenever you have a piece where you are taking on and off any type of closure or clasp, that's where you're going to get the most tension in your design. So that's where you're going to want to reinforce the thread. And coming down here then, I'm going to pull nice and tight. Go through that area once again. I'm going to go through one more time, and then my thread's already over there, so I'm just going to tie that knot right there afterwards. Going back through here, coming back down through this design. And I'm going to keep this needle and thread on, because after I tie the knot, I'm going to take it back through the RounDuo so that way it matches insides, and pull that knot inside. So I'm going to tie here, right over left, left over right. Do that nice tie. I've got my thread zapper, my thread burner handy. I'm going to take my needle and thread through that RounDuo to bring it out towards the end. Get that nice little pull there, separating out your threads, and then taking your thread burner, your thread zap, and burning that down toward the project so you don't see it at all. And I did choose to use the white versus the green. I could have used either, but because my crystal color was pretty light, I went with the white thread. Burning that down then towards your project. Your corset bracelet is finished. Like I said, it's really pretty on both sides. You can have it on the one side here where you see more of that looping section in the crystals. And then if you flip it over, the RounDuos and the pearls really start to take more of that precedence. Really cool bracelet for a couple different design elements. Thanks so much for joining me for this corset bracelet. Remember, if you do want to make the design and need any supplies, go ahead and look below the video in the description. There's a little down arrow on your phone or that show more button. That'll get you links to our website where you can check out all the materials for the design. Also, if you haven't yet, remember to subscribe so you don't miss anything from us at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for joining us, and stay tuned for our next inspirational design.